Hello everyone, I'm Nick from nextstepnick.com. I'm joined today by Vicky again. Hello.
Hello, guys.
Hello there. Now, full disclosure, we have just tried to record a little bit of Tenchu, the original game, and I love that game, but A, it has not aged well, B, you cannot play it whilst talking because you really need to concentrate, and C, I never realised you couldn't turn the camera, which is a problem, or it's something wrong with my emulator. So, instead, I will play it later and record it with me doing well rather than really badly, and we'll never discuss the fact that I failed 3 times on killing the guy in the first mission, but that doesn't matter. So anyway, game news, straight into it. Bish bash bosh.
What's been happening?
Yeah, we'll go straight into it. First things first, I want to see Baldur's Gate 3 be a good game, please.
I've never played any of the originals, but it's one of those things that I'd like to, because I'm pretty sure, wasn't that what the original creators of Fallout 1 and 2 were working on before they did Fallout?
I'm not actually sure. Baldur's Gate is like quite an old series because it's part of the Dungeons and Dragons kind of mythos. So
Yeah.
it's the whole sort of RPG turn-based gameplay kind of thing. And I've always loved Dungeons and Dragons, but the problem is I never really had people I could play with when I was younger. And so I played Divinity, which is something that the studio that's now working on Baldur's Gate, Larian, has had a hand in, and they're really good games, but it's the closest thing I can potentially get to playing Dungeons and Dragons whenever I want to. If it was up to me, I would play a lot. I would find a team of people and I would play a lot. But it's really hard to get past the sort of commitments of work and bits and pieces and just get to playing. So
Yeah.
this is as close as I can get, and it looks good. They're doing a stream right now. I've watched about half of it. Looks like a really good game. I know a few people are upset because the game's still turn-based rather than going into the same kind of gameplay as Pillars of Eternity and stuff like that. But Eternity, sorry.
Pillars of Eternity is Pillars of Eternity. Baldur's Gate is Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, this is it. And like, I don't know why people hate turn-based games. I like turn-based games.
I'm not fussed. I honestly don't care either way. You're talking to the person who sat through 60 hours of two Danganronpa games, just clicking and saying you're wrong, your sentence is wrong. Like, I literally don't care as long as you've got it packaged enough in a good story. And yeah, so I've just googled it, and yes, it is Black Isle Studios who are the ones that did Fallout 1 and 2. I think they did Brotherhood of Steel as well.
There was also, I think Fallout Tactics might have also been them actually.
Yeah, most
Which
likely.
I remember playing on a demo disc that came with PC Gamer.
Oh my god.
That's how I remember playing. Demo discs are something I really miss.
I don't think I ever really did them, mostly because my dad, somehow, I don't know how, would just end up illegally copying a bunch of PS1 games and PC games and bringing them home for me to play. So I don't think I remember the last time I played a legitimate copy of Putt Putt or Pajama Sam, so there we are.
See, you have stitched him right up now, though, because this will go online, and 2 days later you'll get a knock on the door, the retro police will turn up, they'll look like the guys from Chips, and they'll be like, right, we heard you were pirating some games that basically are in the void of time and space now. You're under arrest. Your sentence is you have to play them.
To be fair, I would not mind sitting and playing the pirated games that were nicked from, 2001. They're solid games. They're all on Steam now, I think.
Well, I mean, I use an emulator to play my old PS1 and PS2 games because, believe it or not, it's absolutely fine to emulate a game if you own a copy of the original game. What isn't fine is if you download an EXE, because technically speaking, if you download a game, that is still theft. So you have to check which games are outside of copyright and which games are inside of copyright if you want to do everything illegally. Or what you can do is download an emulator, get a CD drive, and just play your old discs, in which case it's fine. So,
Well,
yeah.
it's a funny thing, that, because in case people aren't aware, rarest PS2 game in existence, do you know what it is?
No, go on.
So, Rule of Rose, it was, to cut a very long story short, it's a horror title, was pulled from release like a couple of weeks before it was due to go live in the UK, because basically the Italian press kind of played it up, and they invented a bunch of wild rumours that turned out not to be true, and the ratings board panicked and pulled the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
So now you're looking at paying. So I paid 130 quid for an Italian copy, because you can change the language into English. But it's not on the PSN. You can't get a reasonably priced second-hand copy. So normally, if you get like a European one to a French, Italian, or German one, you're looking at about 200 to 300 quid. I think I've only ever seen one sold at a used game fair, and that was a French one for, I want to say, 200 quid. And if you want a US or a UK copy, you're looking at about £600. So my question is, how are people supposed to play that?
Well, this is the thing as well, because now if you purchase that game, for example, none of that money is going to the developer or the publisher. And another one that does this is, I've got the original Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but the EU release, that is a similar game in that the EU release is worth, with the case and the art book and the audio disc, it's worth something like £300 to £400. Like,
Nice.
I've got a few that are worth quite a bit. But the thing is that this is a kind of debate that's gone on for a while, because if you're emulating a game that you legally cannot buy anymore, how can there be a complaint? But then at the same time, legally speaking, there technically is, because copyright lasts for X amount of years. I think it's like standard is like 100 years. But the problem is a lot of these games, the issue you have with games especially compared to any other medium, is that, say with a book, most books will get printed if there's demand.
Yeah.
But with games, if you've got a game, for example, that's produced by two studios, so say someone owns the rights to the name, someone owns the rights to a character, and someone owns the actual, the game build itself. If one of those parties has dissolved, it's over, game over. If one has gone with a big company, it's over, game over. Like, you can never play that again. And it makes no sense to me, because you're losing parts of history by not allowing people to emulate games. And it just seems like a silly rule, really. It makes no sense.
Well, isn't it? This is the reason why we haven't got a Crisis Core remake for the PS4, because so apparently, I don't know how accurate this is, but Genesis is based off Gact, who is some sort of Japanese celebrity or whatever. I'm not really sure, and because they don't want to pay the rights of Gact's likeness to him, they won't remake Crisis Core. Like, I think there was a similar problem for a long time with Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, because I think it was something to do with the theme song and the copyright, which is why it was never put on the PSN for God knows how long.
Well, this is famously the problem as well, which is why nobody thought we'd see a Final Fantasy VIII remake, is because one of the songs, I think it's Eyes on Me is the name of the song, is owned by a band. But then that band, I think, dissolved, which means that someone owns the rights, and it's like, okay, so we can't get the rights to this song, which means you can never remaster this game. And fair enough, they got to it in the end. But for example, I play, I don't know if anyone remember the era of the mascot platformer, but I used to play Gex and Gex 3D.
Nope.
They are pretty good games. They're fun. They're a bit childish, but they have quite a lot of sarcasm in them. There's a bit of wit and a bit of irony. They take the mick out of famous films. There's a lot of really good things they do. Those games, there is very little chance that they are getting a remaster. There is very little chance that they are going to be suddenly out there to purchase on Steam or anywhere else, because they were made by companies that basically don't exist anymore. And I've got the discs, so I'm lucky I can emulate them, technically speaking. I mean, unless you download a ROM, cough, cough, I'm not saying you should do that, but at the same time, if you can't find a game and you choose to do that, that's your own prerogative, and fair enough, cough. But if you cannot get that game, does that mean you're just not allowed to play it? Are you never going to play it? So that means you can't enjoy... if I was a developer and I spent years of my life making a game, I would want people to play it, especially after 25 years, when you think, hey, I'm not going to make any more money from this, but at the same time, I don't want my legacy to disappear,
Well, this is it. It's like, because this exact same thing happened to me. I think it was last year or the year before last. When Jurassic World Evolution came out for the PS4?
Yes, yeah.
And it was 2018, actually, thinking about it. And I was really excited because I'm like, oh my God, Jurassic Park. So I used to play the Operation Genesis EC game that came out like God knows how many years ago. I remember we bought it from Toys R Us. And so I went looking for it because I was like, I had a really good time with that. I wonder if it's on Steam. So I went and had a look, and to my actual surprise, it is not on Steam. And I did a bit of Googling, and it turns out that the developers, I think it's Blue Tongue Studios, I think they're called, They basically went under before Steam had the opportunity to buy the rights. So now, it was a Windows 7 XP release. You've got nowhere to buy a physical copy of that anymore, and you go on eBay and they're selling them for 300 quid each.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's a bit like the artist argument, If an artist puts out a painting, then surely you should be allowed to buy that painting. But if you could buy a poster online that has that artwork in it, then should you not buy the poster? Because not everyone can afford to pay 20, 30, 40,000 pounds for a painting, but at the same time they might appreciate the art and want to have that as part of their life.
Well, exactly. You get this a lot with Calvin and Hobbes, actually, the comic strip, because Bill Watterson was so massively against getting a syndicate for the comic and basically making money off it. And now there's a handful of original prints that were done, I think, for a charity thing years and years and years ago. And there's no Hobbs toys, there's no nothing. But people desperately want them. They want t-shirts, they want prints, they want posters, and the only way they can get them is by pirating them, because there was literally no official merchandise made. So then whenever you post it on the subreddit, the whole subreddit kicks off because it's against the artist's original ideals. But if there's no official merchandise, what are you meant to do?
Yeah, and once the art is out there, does it really belong to the artist anymore? I mean, for example, say, one of the really obvious ones is, we say this about books and poetry all the time. I'm very into literary references and literary stuff. I did a degree in English and I love it. But when we look at the art of a person, once it leaves them, we can interpret it how we want to.
Yeah.
They might say, this is meant to be darkness, death and despair, but you might say, well, actually, this inspires happiness and joy in me and the idea of perseverance. And they can't then say, well, no, it doesn't, because that's not how life works. And it's the same thing with when it comes to games and stuff like that. You might buy a game that is absolutely awful, but have a fantastic time with it because it's funny.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be funny, but it's funny for all the wrong reasons. There is something we're going to do, by the way, this week at some point, well, next week now, which I would love to do, and this is a surprise to Vicky as well.
All right.
I have recorded Lost Brothers.
Oh, goody.
It has not ended well.
Oh, it ended?
There was swearing involved.
Okay. Do I get to read the dialogue in a silly voice?
You get to do more than read the dialogue in a silly voice.
Oh, brilliant.
Because you get to, we're going to record this, so you guys can watch this. You get to experience the weird, wacky... I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't finish the game.
Fair.
I threw a controller down and just thought, F this, not doing it again. I swore a lot. And I think it's about 20 minutes worth of footage, because that 20 minutes, I had to restart the game 3 times.
Oh my god.
There is no autosave.
Oh my god.
There's 20 minutes of coverage. There's about an hour and a half's worth of gameplay.
Wow.
And that's what I mean, is the game is fun for the wrong reasons. But it's the same in regard to sales. It's like what Banksy does. He will put graffiti on a wall, and then people will sell t-shirts with his art on. But then, can you really say people can't appreciate your art in that way?
Well, I'll tell you what the prime example of that was. Right, okay, don't judge me for this, because this was entirely not my fault. I feel I was sold this game under false pretense, right? So I am a JRPG collector. I collect weird Japanese games. The stuff that usually only gets a 1-print run because normally it's terrible. And, and there's just lots of, big European words in there. There's always some Europeans, something von something. And, lots of fancy words thrown around that are utterly meaningless. And all of that is great fun. Because I'm just like, you know what? Roll with it. Roll with your batshit sci-fi plot. I'm good. And I like the magical girl stuff, mostly because of the pretty outfits. The pretty outfits, you've got cute pastel colour schemes. It's all great fun. And I picked up a Just title, I think it was, called Blue Reflection, which looked fairly harmless. It had a pretty magical girl on the cover, and it was like, oh, you know, gather the hope fragments to save the world, and I've actually forgotten the main character's name. That's how bland she was. To get her ability to dance again, all this crap. So I was like, yep, okay, I'll go with this.
Yeah.
Basically, the game had the most awkward fan service in the entire life. Like, literally, you would just get pervy camera shots. Every cheap shot you can think of that a game would take, it did. And it got to a point where I was so numb to it. I was just giggling hysterically every time something ridiculous happened. And I'll have to send you it later, but there's a rather unfortunate translation issue that I actually cannot repeat because we will get banned from YouTube. It was just, why is this here?
How bad are we talking when we say this? How bad are we talking?
Pretty unmentionable. Like, it's hilarious when you look at it because you're like, they clearly did not realise, or they didn't speak enough English or whatever to realise what they were translating. But
oh god,
it's just hysterical because I looked at it and I was like, that can't have been done by accident.
Yeah.
And
like, are we? So is it one of those things where, you know, obviously we won't say what it is, but is it one of those things that made you cringe, or one of those things that genuinely shocked you?
It's neither. Hang on, because this is what I put it in the review I did for GTS, and I'm just going to see if I can find you the screenshot and send it to you because I did screenshot it.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I cannot repeat the word in question because, like I said, I will get banned from YouTube. But it was just one of those things where you just look at it and go, how on earth did they miss this?
Yeah.
Hang on.
And I think that's the thing, though, is like with games like that, if you aren't going to get a hold of them, how else are you going to play them?
I mean, I took this one back. It was basically softcore porn. It was gross. But I'm going to send you this screenshot. Hang on a minute.
I'm preparing myself to read this.
Right,
on a similar topic, did you ever hear... Now, this just popped into my head as a random sort of thought. Whoa!
Yeah, but I looked at that and I was like, how on earth?
Okay. I've just seen what it is as well. All I'm going to say is it is the hard C word with a Y in it.
And I saw it and I was just
and
like,
it still sounds the same.
Did that make it in?
It will still sound the same if you say it that way.
I mean, if you ever look at the review, at some point when you've got later, the whole game is just skeezy as hell. The DLC is girls in sexed up school uniforms or bath towels when they all look about 12. It's creepy as fuck, basically. Oh, sorry, bad swearing. But honest to God, this was genuinely one of the worst games I've ever played. And I only stuck it out because the music was really good and I really liked it. But the rest of it was just like, I think my tipping point was there was a crucial ending scene. And it happened to be raining in this ending scene. And it turns out that all the girls' tops turn see-through, even in crucial ending cutscenes.
What a surprise! What a surprise!
I don't know why I included a screenshot of it.
Do they have underwear on?
They do, but yeah, hang on, I'll send you the other screenshot. I don't think it's a random chance thing, I literally think it's just there. But the whole thing is just easy, and I genuinely felt quite dirty after playing it. I was like, why did I spend 50 quid on this? I thought it was going to be a fun, light-hearted JRPG about magical girls. And it was not.
Yeah. I mean, what's the age rating on it? Oh, wow.
Hang on.
Out of interest, just out of curiosity.
I'll have a look. Because I think my copy is still in the local game. I shopped it in 2017. Every time I've been back there, there's been a very battered copy left, and I actually think it's mine.
I think the problem is that some things are lost in translation as well.
Hang on. Peggy's just loading. So it is a 16 for, surprise, surprise, scenes of a sexual nature.
Sorry, so it's got the hard C in it. I mean, fair enough, they've spelled it slightly differently, but it's got the hard C. Right, for anyone who's listening to this, obviously we are not going to say it, and we are not going to tell you to look it up, but you can. And
Definitely
if you
didn't
do,
review or anything.
Yeah, and if you want to know how they've spelt it and what I'm talking about, think of the worst word starting with C and put a Y in it, but don't change the sound at all. It's literally the same. It's the same word.
And the thing is, I don't even get it. It's got nothing to do with the little photo booth scene. Either.
No.
Like, it's got nothing to do with it. It's just there on a sign. And I remember just taking a screenshot and being like, guys, what? Like, what do I even do? Can we put this on the site?
I played. There was a game I played back in the day that was translated, and one of the main characters' names translated as anus.
Oh my god, what game was that?
It was like a small indie flash game back in the day where you could go on like Miniclip and stuff like that. And I was playing it, and then his name was ANNUAS. And I was like,
how else do you
his name is Anus. His name is Anus.
Wow.
Ironically enough, though, there was a similar situation that I know about where it's awful. It's an awful story. It's funny, but awful. There was a guy I know who worked at a restaurant up in central London, and it was an all-you-can-eat buffet. And a lot of the people who worked there weren't originally from the UK, so of course their grasp on the language isn't great. But then at the same time, they're very conscious of the fact that they want to be approachable. So they will put like fake names on the name badges.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can see why they do that. I don't think they should have to do that. I don't think that's something that really matters. You know, I think if someone's name is something, then, you know, you should make an effort and at least, you know. But at the same time, if that's what they choose to do and it's their restaurant, fair enough. There was one woman there who didn't get on with anyone else, so they changed her name badge to the popular English name Fatty.
Fatty.
So she walked around with a name badge for about a year and a half that said, "Hi, my name is Fatty."
Wow.
Which, you know, I mean, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, it's so childish and stupid, but it's also kind of funny.
Little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, coming back to the game side of things, these kind of games are not going to be in release for very long, and let's be honest, like with the one we've just been talking about, you're not going to see a Western release of this, because it's too much for any publisher to take a chance on.
What, Blue Reflection?
Yeah.
No, this was a Western release. I bought it from a local game.
Oh, really? I didn't know I thought you'd ordered it from somewhere and then...
No. I pre-ordered it from Game. I paid 50 quid for that.
What?
I bought it full price. It was a new game that had come out.
You know, you can get this kind of thing on the internet for free if you want to see a teenager with a see-through top.
Not quite. Can I get like magical girls and big swords? I mean, I can just go and watch some pirated anime, to be fair. But the point is, I was lied to by the pretty colours and the soft pastel colour scheme.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, when you said big sword, I immediately thought you were saying a euphemism.
No.
and I thought, oh, that's a different kind of game entirely. But no, I think the thing is it's one of those things that's like, it's uncomfortable because it's something that I'd imagine is totally fine in a different country, but at the same time, it's like against our social norms, and that's why people, you know, like personally speaking, I would feel very uncomfortable.
The whole thing was incredibly uncomfortable because I think I even said in the review, like, there's just all this fan service. There's a bit where I've just looked her name up and it's Hinako. But the point is, there's one point where she just falls back and her skirt gets all rocked up. There's a point where she's getting out of the pool and the camera just zooms in on her ass unnecessarily. There's a whole locker room scene where all the girls are in their underwear, but all these girls look scarily young, and I'm just sitting here going, who is this meant to appeal to? Because it's not made for laughs, it's not intended to be sexy, it's just there in front of you, and I'm just sitting here extremely skeeved out, mentally cursing that I opened the box and I can't get my 50 quid back.
Yeah. See, I think that's the thing, is that it's the thing that's slightly unnerving is I think the ages are different in Japan as opposed to other countries, and it is, it's a bit unsettling, and that's the thing. But I think the problem is with stuff like that as well, when you said, oh, I don't think this is very sexy, someone somewhere, no matter what it is, if it's a little bit weird, someone somewhere is getting off to it. Because there was a thing before, I don't know if you've heard about it, but there was a game called Mr. Mosquito, I think it was called.
No.
It's a Japanese game where you play as a mosquito and you basically fly around and drink blood. But they all happen to be women in very little clothing, quite a lot of the time. And another one was something like Giant Woman, and the game was literally I think it was called Giant Woman, and all it was a woman in underwear destroying a city.
Wow.
And literally you see it and you think, someone somewhere is going, my God, this is for me. You know, like, at no point in my life have I turned to my significant other and said, do you want to destroy a model village in your pants? Because it's not my thing. If it's someone else's thing, fine. But I think that's the problem, is it's so unsettling for anyone else that you're like, I don't know what this is.
And it's not even... I mean, come on, they look... Like, literally, there was a point where they were all saying, oh yeah, they're definitely all 15. And I took one look at the kind of cutesy doll-like models they were using, and I was just like, look me in the eye and tell me they're 15. Really, because it's just grim, and especially with all the downloadable costumes you can get on Steam, they're all just like even shorter versions of the school uniform, sexy school uniform, bath towels. You know, what's the word? Like, whatever, school swimsuits or something like that. You know, it's just like no.
Yeah, and I think I think that's just so like it just makes you feel a bit dirty, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean. The other thing as well, which is, you know, I don't condone a game that does that. I find it a bit awkward. Like, I watch a lot... Pardon me. I watch a lot of manga and... I'm going to burp again, hang on. Oh, God. There, fine. I'm going to cut that. If I remember. I watch a lot of anime and manga. And quite a lot of the time... you have characters that are purposely made to look young in very revealing clothes. And it's one of those things where when you first read and watch anime and manga, you're a bit like, oh, okay, this is a bit unnerving. And it's one of those things that you get desensitized to, but you just sort of go, oh, you know, like it makes you sort of go, oh, and cringe a little bit, and then you just move on. But it's one of those things where if you get a game that is meant to be sexy... why are you like, you know, there are websites, you know, like for normal stuff. I mean, that's creepy and weird, and I don't condone it. But like normal stuff, you know, like the kind of stuff where people go, oh, I'm going to play a game that it's got a load of teenagers in, like 18-year-old teenagers, and if I win the game, they take their tops off, and you're like, why are you making porn an effort?
Yeah, literally, my review line was, it is softcore porn designed as a magical girl game. It's like, there is no point to it whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's... But I don't know who's...
Hopefully. Like,
I don't know who the target audience is. I feel like the target audience are the kind of people where, you know, you sell the game and immediately a police car just follows them. Like, they just open a game store that sells nothing but pervy games, and there's just a guy with a computer in the background just tapping. Yeah, do you want to use your loyalty card? Yeah, it's Jeff Smedhurst from 23 Garden Road. Yeah, we'll nip round later, because everyone who's in here, it's like this week we do it with pornography, you know, and that way we catch a lot of people. Next week it's drugs. Like next week they're like, do you want to buy this game about selling weed? I do. Okay. What, have you got your loyalty card? Like, it's just slowly increasing the number of people on the watch list.
It feels like you should be on a watch list if you play this.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is it's one of those things where it's just a bit, I don't know, it just strikes me as creepy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but going back to the initial thing, I don't know how, like, especially with games that you can't get anymore, I don't know what's expected in regard to how you can, because honest to God, and people are going to say rubbish as I say this, if anyone watches this, but people are going to say, oh, he's not telling the truth here. But legitimately, when I got my emulator, when I've used an emulator, I've always used my own discs, but there was a point where I thought, right, is there a way you can emulate games you've not played or you don't have the discs for in a legal way. And of course there isn't, except if that game is out of copyright. And I thought, okay, fair enough. Now, what games are out of copyright? Because technically speaking, it's 100 years, I think it is, unless something else gets rid of that copyright, you know. So I was like, okay, like the death of a person or whatever. And I was like, okay. So I looked, and honestly, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, to be honest, what's meant to be done about games on stuff like the Amiga and older generation consoles, because you are never going to see a remaster of some of those games.
Well, wasn't there a whole thing like a year or so ago with Nintendo getting really snippy about it? There was a whole thing where a guy had uploaded a load of like ROMs and everything else to a site of all the classic Nintendo games that you couldn't buy anymore, and they shut him down.
Yeah, Nintendo are notoriously aggressive when it comes to stuff like that. At one point, they introduced Super Mario Maker. I don't know if you remember Super Mario Maker came out, the first one. When that came out, loads of people online had made like custom maps in their own way. You know, like they just basically gone around the system and made their own like emulation maps. Nintendo struck all of them before Maker came out and basically got rid of all this fan-related content, and then said, but now you can use this subpar thing to make little levels. And it's like, wow, like way to stomp all over your community. But it was just, it's not, I don't know why they do it, because it doesn't cost you anything and it promotes your game. It's like when people say like mods in games, like, oh, we don't really like mods. Why do you not like mods?
All the things you broke.
Yeah, and not only that, but say if someone adds a mod where, I don't know, they add a mod in a game that allows you to turn into a seagull.
Who's that
right?
harming?
Pardon?
Who's that harming? What bad things are doing?
But also it's working in your favour because, one, people who like the mod will have to buy your game to play the mod. Two, if you endorse the mod and say it's fun, you will encourage a community of people who regularly work with your game, who could potentially work for you later because they understand how your game works. Three, you are showing yourself as caring about your community and fan base, thus securing more sales. And four, like you say, who's it harming? You weren't going to make a mod where you can turn into a seagull. You had no intention for Seagull Simulator. Why are you bothered that someone can be a bird that takes chips from people? Get over it.
I mean, it's like, my God, The Sims, right? Sims 3. So, in case you don't know, it's incredibly broken. Incredibly broken. Like, so that whole selling point for The Sims 3 was story progression, where your families, you know, like they grew up, they got married, they died, they lived lives in the background.
Yeah.
EA's story progression from the day the game came out did not work. It doesn't work. If you leave it to run by itself, it will kill towns, they will go stagnant, it does not work. Now, there is a modder called Twellan who has made a whole series of mods, but one of those is story progression mod. It's completely free. He's made a load of other stuff for The Sims 3, and it seamlessly works. So can you imagine if like EA had gone after him and just been like, yeah, no, you made a mod that fixes what broke. It was literally at a point where you would wait for this guy to make a patch and just be like, you know, Sims updated, don't panic, wait for Twellan to make the patch, download it, it'll fix everything, because they break the game.
Yeah. And like with that, how can they say, oh, well, we don't like mods? They're fixing your mistakes.
I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just admitting that they can't make games very well.
Well, do you remember when Bethesda tried to charge, they've got the Bethesda Community Creation Club, or whatever it's called, when they started saying that what they were going to do was charge for you to get basically someone else's work, but give them money.
No, you know what, I'm just going to go back to The Sims where all of my fake stuff is free.
Yeah, and I'm really sorry, Bethesda, but like, you're now a laughingstock.
Yeah, they are.
You deserve it. Like, believe it or not, Bethesda were one of the companies that kind of encouraged the sale of the first DLCs, like the little in-game microtransactions with their horse armour.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, and you think all the way from back then. It's funny though, I was talking to someone about this the other day. It's funny how Activision Blizzard, like Blizzard and Bethesda and BioWare, were companies that I thought, wow, these guys are some of the best. You know, when I hear there's an announcement from these guys, I am eager. And over the course of maybe 2 years, they have turned to some of the worst companies in the industry. And it's amazing how quickly you can kill your own fan base with bad decisions.
Like, I want them to announce a New Vegas remaster because I love it and I'd be very excited. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I'd just be going, how are they going to ruin it?
They wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, I think the problem is that they've always struggled with Fallout ever since they farmed it out to Obsidian. Because Obsidian came in, showed everyone what they were missing, and then Bethesda couldn't follow them.
Yeah.
They didn't know, they could not follow them. And then even now, you look at the Outer Worlds. I don't know, have you played the Outer Worlds yet?
I haven't played it. I've seen my flatmate play bits and pieces of it. And it's basically Fallout New Vegas in space. And that's not a bad thing.
It's a good game, but it feels very, very rushed at the end.
Yeah.
And they're doing DLC for it, fair enough. And there's going to be some more stuff coming out, fair enough. But it's not as expansive as New Vegas, for example. You can't spend as long in it. But the thing I don't get is Bethesda should have really gone, right, these guys have shown us how it's done. We need to show why we are in charge of this IP.
Yeah.
And instead, they just fumbled it. And then they fumbled it some more.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually, to everyone on the stream, you will be surprised to hear this. I actually still occasionally dip into Fallout 76.
I never tried it. I just looked at it, went, nah, not even Mothman is getting me into this. And left.
I bought it to review it a long time ago because I never played it when it came out because I knew it was going to be bad. And I paid barely anything for it. And I thought, right, I'll do a review a year down the line. Is it worth getting yet? Which you can find on the YouTube channel. If you head back down a little bit, you'll find it down there. Well, what I'll do actually is I'll make it the recommended video at the end of this. But it was unstable. There were frame rate drops. There were dropouts. There were freezes. Problems with items not loading in. T models. Everything. I, every now and then, dip back in because, you know, I mean, No Man's Sky, I'll probably do a video on No Man's Sky at some point. No Man's Sky, I played not too long after it came out, just to sort of scratch the itch, and it was a broken mess, but they've done good work to bring it back up to par. With 76, they are still having the same, if not worse, issues than day one. To the point where enemies will still spawn out of other enemies, people will get trapped in places, you'll still get disconnects all the time, items will go missing, textures will go mad, you won't have skins on stuff, sometimes heads won't load. It's a mess. And you think, guys, what in the hell are you doing? And I feel the same way about BioWare. I saw an announcement the other day that BioWare is working on a bit more in regard to a couple of different titles coming out soon. But one of the things they're working on, which I've heard rumblings about for a while, is Dragon Age 4.
Yeah.
I love Dragon Age. Dragon Age Origins is one of my favourite games of all time. It's in my top 10 favourite games of all time, alongside Mass Effect 2. They take 2 spots, BioWare. But I thought Inquisition was kind of meh. I thought Dragon Age 2 was awful. And now, I'm sorry, but I don't trust them. I've already heard what's happened. I don't know if you heard about what happened with Dragon Age 4 already.
No.
Right. Do you like the Dragon Age series?
I confess I have never played them because high fantasy is really not my cup of tea, and I feel it's going to be one of those that I either really enjoy or just can't stand. It's like Skyrim.
You will love them. I promise you this, you will love them. I can tell for a fact, if you start with Origins, you will love it.
Okay.
But the problem is that the original plan, and this is what I thought was interesting, was you were going to be a spy in this place called the Tevinter Imperium. So basically a society of mages that basically indulge their pleasures and they don't really care about other people, and the rich just don't care about the poor. And it sounds like a really interesting, different experience. And you were going to be a spy, and you were kind of like organising the ways in which you were gaining information and increasing your network and really sort of extending tendrils across the city and across the country. And there was going to be all of this subterfuge and choices and moral dilemmas and really interesting stuff. And apparently they were saying there were quests inside of quests and constantly branching narratives that led to all different things. And I was like, wow. Until they were told to scrap all that, go back to the drawing board and just make it a bit more open world. So it's all been scrapped.
Oh.
So now it's back to being generic cookie cutter crap.
Why has it been scrapped?
Because, as far as I'm aware, from what I've heard internally, EA had cold feet about it, didn't like what they saw, and said go back to the drawing board with it and make it a bit more. I think there's a multiplayer focus, but I don't know for sure.
Oh, goody. More multiplayer, exactly what we need.
I think the problem is multiplayer can really expand on a game if it's done right. But you need to really... You can't just say, right, we're going to make a multiplayer game. What is it? Dunno. What's the plot? Not sure. But it's going to have this. It's like, no. Come up with an idea you're passionate about and then add multiplayer. Great example of this, and it's been in the news recently, Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
I love Stardew Valley. I think that Barone is a great guy. Really amazing developer. Concerned Ape is the other name he goes by. He's wonderful. The game was a labour of love. And then when they eventually added multiplayer, it was done well, it was done cleverly, in respect for the game itself.
Yeah.
And he's still bringing out, with the help of like Chucklefish, free updates, free content. They've just finished 1.4, which added loads of new content and patches. He's already said he's working on 1.5, and there's no planned paid DLC. Like, the guy is really a standout guy, and he made that game on his own. Because he wanted to just fill the gap left by Harvest Moon. And you think, if this one guy, with limited funds, can do this, then what the hell are you doing?
I know.
I feel like the AAA industry very rarely takes risks on AA or single A titles anymore.
No, it doesn't.
And I used to love that. Some of my favourite games were games that I think were probably risky for those developers, risky for those studios, but they came out on top because they took the risk.
I'm still mad about Scalebound for exactly the same reason.
Scalebound was a weird one because I remember seeing the trailer and thinking, okay, this could be good or awful, and then just boom, gone.
Not even a reason for it, it was just gone, and I was looking forward to teenagers with headphones fighting dragons with guitars.
It seemed very Devil May Cry-esque.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know why they would regret any kind of investment like that, because look at Devil May Cry.
Exactly.
1 was fantastic, 2 was awful, 3 was fantastic, 4 was good. Like, the most recent one was good. DMC was different, but still all right in its own right. I know people don't like it, but it was still a good game. Like, don't get me wrong, I know 2 was one of the worst things I've ever played. I remember playing 2 and being like, there's an advert in here for denim. But there literally is. I think it's Diesel or Denim. There is an advert for it in the game, and you can wear, like, denim trousers and jackets with logos on. It's embarrassing.
Wow.
That game included a character called Lucretia or Lucille or something was her name, and it was Dante and Lucille. The entire game was just Dante and her trying to be cool all the time, rather than any substance whatsoever. And there were 2 discs. I didn't realise this. There was a Dante disc and a Lucille or Lucinda or whatever her name was disc. I put in the disc for her, played her entire playthrough going, where's Dante? What is this? This is awful. When am I going to play as Dante? And I finished the game and was like, what a cop-out. I was only young. What a cop-out. He's not even in the game. And I was furious. And I threw the box and the manual fell out and I saw the second disc. Yep. And that was when I decided video games weren't for me.
And now you're here.
And now I'm here, miserable, in a little cave, giving off a smell, just looking at the old days, crying, trying to get Tenchu to work. I think that's the thing, is just going back to emulation, like, if people love your game so much that they still want to play it 25 years later, maybe just give them the fact to say yeah, maybe just say yeah. I don't think it's like with Steam now. Some of the prices for some of the older games are absolutely ludicrous. Like you can get certain games. So I think, oh yeah, I'll revisit that. You look at the price; it's like £39 still, and you're like, sorry, Nintendo are some of the worst for this. Yeah. I mean, Zelda. I saw Zelda pre-owned Breath of the Wild the other day for £52.
Oh my
It's been
God.
out for how long? Like,
Years?
now Nintendo is one of the worst though because they encourage that. They encourage that by making stocks limited on purpose, and that's shifty, and I don't like it. And I think Nintendo, if anyone is listening from Nintendo, I doubt you ever will, but if at some point we make it big by accident, I accidentally break a story about the Queen liking Mario or something. If you listen to this, bad, drop it, don't do it, because you do such good work with other things. And then you come along and you do something like that, and it's shifty and it's dodgy, and you should stop, because everything else you do is quite nice. I like the fact you're inclusive. I like the fact that you get people into games. I like the fact that your games are for everyone. I like the fact that the Switch is out there. The Switch is generally one of my favourite consoles ever. It's really, really good. But at the same time, stop making me want to headbutt you. Like I get, it's like you drag me in for a kiss, and then at the last moment, you just headbutt me in the nose. I mean, I don't know what do you want from me?
Well, this is it, and I'll tell you what the best example of that is, right? So, when the Wii U was out, I think I probably mentioned this before, but Project Zero 05, you can't buy that anymore. You cannot. It was only given a physical release on the Wii U if you pre-ordered the special edition, and now I have not seen that for any cheaper than £150 because I didn't buy it on launch. It's like I played Pokemon a lot as a kid, but wasn't like hardcore into it. And every time I kind of see a second-hand copy, like, oh, you know what? I'll give that a go, and I'll look at the price, and it's at least £30, and just go, no thanks, and put it back.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? Now, if anyone from this company ever listens, who's the bad guy when you do moves like that? It's a you, Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's a you. So don't be doing that. Help us to love you.
Please
help
make a
us to
Pokemon
love
game
you.
cheaper.
Or better yet, put Temtem on there. Have you played Temtem yet?
No, I've never played it.
Oh my god, right, I've got it up, I've been streaming it recently on Twitch, so if you do want to check it out, then head over to my Twitch. It's Next Step Nick on Twitch, because of course it is, because I'm very much a one-trick pony. But it's good, it's fun, it's fresh, it's enjoyable, it's got all of the things that Pokemon should have had for ages.
Nice.
It's turn-based tactical fighting. You use 2 Temtem against 2 Temtem at a time, so there's more tactics going on. There's a lot of T's in that sentence. It's just really good. The sound effects are good. The gameplay is fun. The characters are enjoyable. The world is really cool. It's wonderful. It's a really, really good game. It was a Kickstarter project by an indie team, and it shows what you can do if you have passion. And again, Nintendo, you're listening, put that on the Switch, call Game Freak over and be like, look at that. Look at that. What are you doing? Because it's good. It's so good. If people are listening to this and you haven't played it yet, check out the stream if you're not sure, but Temtem is so good. It's so good. It's just, I had so much wonder playing it. It was just, wow. You know what, when you first got the original 150 Pokemon?
Yeah.
And everything was fresh and new, and you knew they cared before they literally started looking around the room in board meetings to make Pokemon. Like, oh, this is Cupmon. this is Spoonatron. What's it turn into? Forkson. And then Knife Boy. Okay. Like, they by the time they put in the ice cream that evolved into 2 scoops, I knew they'd stopped giving it. I knew they'd stopped caring.
Yeah, that was the one Elliot always used to bring up. So yeah, I was exactly.
Yeah, that and the pile of garbage.
Wow. I mean,
to
say something here.
I love the idea that there is one guy in Game Freak's group that's like, right, we need some new Pokemon. What have you got for us? And he comes in after having pulled an all-nighter and gotten a little bit drunk, and he just opens out his pockets and goes, this is Linto, and it evolves into Button, and then that evolves into T-shirt. Good. Get it on there. Well, you've got 149 left. Go.
You heard the story of how Kingdom Hearts Recoded, or Coded originally came to be made, because Tetsuya Nomura was drunk and brought it up at a dinner party. That is how Coded got made, and my god does it show. And I say this as someone who loves Coded, because it's genuinely hilarious, in a good way. But yeah drunk. 100%, I believe that.
Can you imagine how awful it must be to be drunk around him, though? Because you go out for a nice chill, and he tells you a 2-hour plot that makes very little sense, and you're like, I wasn't drinking, and yet I'm more confused than he is.
I mean, that's what most of my beta readers tell me, so kinda.
I think he's one of these people where it's a bit like if you went out for a beer with Hideo Kojima.
Oh, that'd be fun though.
I would love to, but at the same time, I feel like I'd come back and know less than I did when I left.
Yeah.
Like, I'd stumble into my house and, oh my God, are you okay? How much have you drank? And you just say, well, I haven't been drinking. I don't know where I am anymore.
I was just asking him what the plot was for the cancelled Silent Hills, and now I'm just going to go cry for a bit.
He made me listen to 4 different CDs of Low Raw, which is some Swedish band he liked. Were they good? Well, they were okay. But the 4 CDs. He knows Norman Reedus.
Yeah.
Like, it's just surreal. It's really surreal.
God,
I mean,
I aspire to be like that.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall when he is pitching an idea back in the days when he was working with Konami.
Yeah.
And they must have just looked at him. And by the end of, like, you know, a 3-hour presentation involving slides and a laser pointer, do you understand the plot? Yeah. Really? Because I didn't.
You're putting a bomb where? And another bomb where?
And so Fireman comes in, and he's got the head of it. Sorry, what? Well, you know, okay. Like, so it's a tactical, strategic game, all about subterfuge and the plots between the government and the people, and whether or not technology, the rampant use of technology, will actually, you know, destroy the future of people by destroying their connections. Oh, interesting. That sounds really deep. Yeah, and then around about this point, the psychic bloke that's covered in latex comes in. What he's whoa, what? Sorry, what did you say? Oh, I said it's all about the. No, I heard that bit. What's the bit about the latex covered fella? Oh, well, he's got statues with gas masks. What are you talking about? Like, I don't know how. It's all fine. And then you meet the DARPA chief, but that's Decoy Octopus. Sorry? It's a what? Like, it's
Wow.
great and it's genius, and I love Hideo Kojima, but what's going on?
I don't know, but I aspire to be that level of just flat out incomprehensible one day.
Imagine being his son or daughter and unwrapping your Christmas present.
Wow.
Oh,
It's just a baby in a jar.
yeah. Oh, it's half of a fish with the head of a homeless person. Yes, it represents all of this. Oh, lovely. I'll put it with the other ones.
If you're listening to this, Mr. Kojima, we're not insulting you. We actually genuinely like you. We're just very confused.
I have a Kojima Productions shirt. I love Hideo Kojima. If any developers are listening to this, if you want a beer, hit us up.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that includes indie developers if you are listening. So small-time developers that have just made their first game. If you ever want to chat to us or have a chat on the stream or just have your little say, that'll be fantastic, and you're always welcome to do that. It doesn't matter who you are. I think it's important to have just different voices every now and then with us, just to give. Yeah, and I love it. And it doesn't matter what you've made or what you're working on. If you want to have a chat and you want to give it a plug, then pop on. I'm sure people will be more than happy to listen. And let's be honest, even if they don't, it's for us. We'll have fun. You'll have a great time with us. You'll be in our care, and we discuss such brilliant things, as you can tell from all the content so far.
Yeah, we only said we were going to record for half an hour.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm looking at the time and thinking, oh, okay. But I suppose with that, we probably better call it a day there. But thank you very much, everyone, if you have tuned in today. If you have enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. It takes literally a second, but it really helps out with the channel. YouTube is not a forgiving mistress, and sometimes it just does not help you at all. So every click really helps out. Vicky, what's your plan for the rest of the week and the weekend?
Right, what am I doing? So it's my granddad's birthday tomorrow, so I'm going around there. And then my uncle is selling a whole bunch of t-shirts. He runs his own t-shirt store, Hair and Table. He does like folklore t-shirts, printed tea towels and postcards as well. So I think they're up at, what's the name of it? It's the Archaeology Live event. I've forgotten what it's called, where it is. It's one of the universities in London. But I'm going to be running the stall all day there on Saturday, so that's going to be fun and murder on my feet. And then Sunday, I plan to fall into a coma and not speak to anybody until I have to go to work.
To be honest, that sounds like a good plan. I'm going to be working for the next couple of days, and then on the weekend, I am going to be doing not a lot. I've got a bit of writing to do. I'll probably be writing up a few bits, but if you do want to check out any more content, guys, then make sure you subscribe because that'll keep you updated. Don't forget that we are going to be playing Lost Brothers very soon.
Nice.
Oh, we are going to be playing Lost Brothers very soon, so make sure you subscribe for that. Other than that, though, all that remains is for me to say thank you very much to my co-host. Thank you very much, Vicky, for joining me again.
Of course, if anyone's listening, don't buy Blue Reflection. It's an absolute con. You've been warned.
And also, from my point, if Hideo Kojima, if you are listening, call me.
Yeah, please
call
do.
me. You can come over. I'll make you a sandwich. We can talk about your latest game. I promise I'll try and keep up.
I mean, I'll just be excited. I'll ask about Silent Hills and cry very quietly.
He told me about a man covered in liquid plastic. Just not any semblance of sense. But I would love to hear from some developers anyway. I've actually been speaking to a couple recently about some small-time indie games, which will be reviewed on the channel soon. But anyway, make sure you stay tuned, guys, and you won't miss them. And yeah, it's going to be fun. But anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, guys. All that remains is for me to say thank you and goodbye from me.
And yeah, and goodbye from me, and we'll catch you all next week.
We'll see you later. Bye-bye.